the streets tell me that Vince McMahon was backstage at Raw this past Monday. I know you're on the show. So did you see him backstage, and does he have a mustache?
Okay, so
Pro Wrestling Bits. Subscribe now.
And thank you, Trish. It's an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you.
I very much enjoyed the Rivalries documentary with you and Lita. It's obviously an important story that needs to be told, as is yours. You have a very interesting origin story. Grew up a big fan of wrestling, and as well as a highly touted background in fitness modeling. So I want to know, how did fitness modeling prepare you for the wrestling world? Is there anything that you learned in that world that maybe you would use to this day in wrestling?
gosh, that's a good one. I mean, I think just like knowing how to take care of your body and like, uh, it definitely helped me in my longevity of like, I'm here 23 years later doing my thing. So that's definitely helped. It's, fitness and health and has been part of my life the entire time. So that's been a big thing for sure. But I mean, nothing can prepare you for wrestling lifestyle. I tell you what, it is different. It is crazy. For fitness, I traveled the world. I did photo shoots everywhere, and I, trained and prepared a certain way. The training for wrestling is very different. It's more like aesthetics training for fitness modeling. For this, it's about functional training, and so that it's a very different world. And then nothing can ever prepare you for the 300 days on the year road schedule that wrestling gives you.
And I know you also have a background in yoga, something that you got into after wrestling that you took a huge passion in. Do you think that would be a better preparation in terms of getting your body to be pliable?
Absolutely. I mean, the reason I can move the way I do now is because of my yoga 100%. Like it really saved me. Like I didn't have to have surgery when I had the herniated discs in my back. That's when I initially found it, rehabilitated my back entirely with the yoga. And it stuck with me. But it's not only like the physical, like how it helped me physically overcome that. It also, dealing, like I said, this 300-day schedule, it really helped me navigate it in a with a clear mind and with the right intention, and not get stressed. And like I used to be like, oh my god, I'm gonna miss my flight, and then it was like, if I miss my flight, I'll get the next one. Like just positive out. Like it's really amazing what it did and what it did for me. So it really helped in so many different ways. But yeah, and I would say longevity, like it should be like a prerequisite that like wrestlers do yoga. Like it's amazingly important. Keeps your muscles supple and the joints, etc. But it's great. I love it.
Yeah, I completely agree. That'd be a good thing for the performance center. I know they have a lot of these fitness classes. I'm sure yoga is part of that, but that should be
Yeah,
standard. I agree.
yeah, for sure.
Now, you grew up a big fan, of course, of wrestling. Not only just a fan, you were pretty much an expert. You're on off the record giving your takes on wrestling, which at the time was so novel to have a woman speak at authority about wrestling on camera like that. And while I do think women covering wrestling is more common now, it's obviously still male dominated in terms of viewership. So from your perspective, what do you think WWE or any wrestling company could do to improve the women viewership to where it's on par with the men?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, I think what they're doing now is exactly right. I mean, we are giving the women more visibility, and it's not about just about like a women's match now. It's the match five. In other words, it doesn't matter what gender is doing this match, right? And of course, now you see like back in the day when Lita and I, which is a big thing of the Rivals episode, you'll see when we got the main event of Raw, that was a huge thing. It was history making. It was unprecedented. Now it's very common, right? The women are main eventing all the time, not only Raw, but they're main eventing pay-per-views, WrestleMania, etc. So, the things they're doing right now, they've definitely like they're taking the right strides right now to become just better represented and not make it such a male-dominated world, And I'm seeing that, and coming back 20 years later, I'm seeing the difference, right? I'm seeing the opportunity. I'm seeing the same attention is given to us as the males, whereas back in the day it wasn't quite like that. It was definitely an uphill battle back in the day. And it's a nice environment right now. It's really a good time for women that we finally have a voice. And I'm proud to know that, like, Lita and I had our hand in it. We knew that like that was our MO, was to go out and become a voice to represent, and we're doing that now. We see it in the current generation as well.
Yeah, and from the beginning, really, of your wrestling career, you were linked to Lita. I did learn from the documentary your first match was against Lita in a 6-person mixed tag match. So did you feel the magic then? What were your memories from that first match?
Yeah, we have had the luxury of running parallel our entire careers, literally from day one, like you said, our first match. And there was just something about these, because we were, so I think wrestling generally, there's characters, different characters, and there's a flavor for everyone, right? You'll, as an audience member, you will like, I resonate with that person. This person will click with me, and they see a little something in you, in that person. So that's the cool thing about wrestling. So for Lita and I, we represented such different things, right? Different look, different value, different voice, everything about us was different. And so we had a different even audience, right? Like there was the Lita fans, there was the Trish Stratus fans. So when we got in the ring, there was definitely this, like, I don't know, like an intangible, right? Like eventually it became sort of a Rock Austin-esque thing. We're like, oh, when these two get in the ring, it's going to be something special. And it was really cool to go from like us being, the sideshow, the accessories, the ballet, so to speak. And knowing like years later, as we started to get into the wrestling, we improved our wrestling. Suddenly we had a voice in the actual wrestling part of things, where now we could take this character that has been along the ride for this whole time, and now having us actually now tell the story physically and in the ring during our own matches was really a special place to get to together.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the Rock Austin parallel, because I do think people will remember that during that era as the women's version of Rock Austin. But to me, what made it different for you guys, and the reason to me that I think you guys bonded so well outside of the ring too, is I felt like you guys were fighting the same battle. Like you weren't necessarily fighting to be the best Trish or the best Lita. You were also fighting for something bigger, for women's wrestling. So do you think that's why you guys maybe felt like you were on the same team more than opponents?
1,000%, because we knew, and it goes back to this, like everyone says to me, every interview I get is like, did you always know you want to become a women's wrestler? And it's like, no, absolutely not. It's like, there was nothing for me to look at. I didn't see anything on my screen that reflected me. I didn't think that was something I could do. Once in a while, of course, we saw Randy Rector, we saw China, we saw women on the screen, but it wasn't something that I thought, yes, this is something I could do, because it didn't give me that, right? And so when we started to realize that, when we started to see, more female fans at our autograph signings, or a rise in the female demographic, realizing that, oh my gosh, we can be the voice, like we are the voice, we can be that representation that wasn't there for us back in the day. And so it did become our mission, our MO, basically, to go through that curtain and know that we had the chance to really impact possibly the way women's were perceived in this whole industry. And knowing that like every move we made could really change the landscape of women's wrestling in general. So it did become, I think you're right. It was something that we wanted to, of course, be the best. I want to be the best female wrestler I could ever be. But it really was about first let's get females on the map first, right? And like we had to re-educate the fans almost. We had to get to a point where like you expected something different from us, because for so long they only knew one thing from us, right? So we had to re-educate the fans. We had to show them we could deliver. We could show them that we could be a viable part of this show. And once we got there, then it was about, then you can, make your name as yourself. But it really was that mission that we had together that really bonded us, and knowing it was to do the battle together, to having the doors close on our face together, to have the nose and having the laughing at our face, like to do that together and then overcoming that together. It's really special. And that's really why, to know, like you said, I don't know how close Rock and Austin are, but, Lita and I like did that because, that was we trust each other's body. We trust each other to take risks together. We tried new things together. We knew we were in uncharted territories together. And that allowed us to have the confidence and to go out there and do what we did. But also really why that rivalry was so strong, because we were like, we're gonna make you remember this. When we go out there, you're gonna remember this. And that was something we wanted together.
Yeah, and your legacy is still all over the product, even to this day at WrestleMania. I think it's very fitting you guys are coming back on the same WrestleMania. We're going to see Charlotte defend the title against Rhea Ripley, because to me, that's the new Trish versus Lita. If you look at the Charlotte coming in, highly touted bombshell against Rhea, more of the oddball with tattoos. So what is your takeaway looking at Charlotte?
Yeah, that parallel. You're absolutely right. That is exactly it. I'm going to use that. That's great. It's really special. You're pointing it out right now, but like, and also just don't forget the generation, like think of our match, right? We have the past with me and Lita, you have the present with Bayley and Becky, and you have the future in Io and Dakota, right? So it's like dynamic to be able to like, let's see what this elements where like all the inspiration, I'm inspired by Becky and Bayley's current work. Like, they were inspired from the very beginning of our work. Like, so to see that all come together is going to be so interesting to see how it plays out and see that dynamic on the grandest stage of all. I mean, Jesus, that's exciting to me.
I love how you put that in terms of the dynamic for that match between yourself, Becky, and Lita against Damage Control. When you look on that Damage Control side, is there any wrestler on there, whether it's Io, whether it's Dakota or Bayley, that you look at like, boy, I'd like to have a singles match with them?
Yeah, all of them. I'll have a little something with each of them. We'll see who. Maybe I'll go dip into a singles match if they make it, unbroken out of this match. We'll see. I'm a fan of all their works. I love, like, because really, we had a little rivalry going once. She was at a live event here in Toronto that I did, and we were like, had a little thing going on, and people were kind of like, ooh, this could be interesting. It's fun. It's fun to go back and like dip in with these different characters that you've never thought you'd interact with on that level. And then just seeing like someone like an Io Sky and seeing her work in the past, in Japan, and just it's a different style. So how would that play out? It's really interesting to me. So I'm excited. I think as a fan, there's like it really gives you everything that you could ask for a women's wrestling perspective.
Yeah, and you mentioned Toronto. So in addition to being a legend, you are also a Canadian wrestling legend, which there's a certain pride to that. I feel like that I've always loved with the lineage that Canadian wrestlers have. And we saw that play out this year with Sami Zayn in Montreal. So did you find yourself pulling for the hometown hero? And what was your reaction when he lost?
Oh man, the same. My whole country sighed. That's what happened. We all sighed together. It was, but such an exciting, invested moment. I remember when I saw him, it was a joke. Like I said, oh my God, I said, like, congrats, man, on everything. And Kevin Owens was beside me. He goes, he lost, right? I said, yeah. But like the moment, right? Like the moment was so special, and like knowing, and especially Kevin Owens and him coming up together and just being Montreal's boys, and like knowing that they were finally in like where they are in this business, and having Sami have his moment. Amazing, right? Like how special. And as a Canadian, I remember I was at the Leafs game the night before, and they were playing the national anthem, and I tweeted it, and I said, Canada, this is for Sam, this is like all of Canada's got your back, but we Canadians, we really like, luckily, like people have their hometowns. We have like a hometown across the country, or like our whole town is like a country, like us Canadians, we're just so excited and so proud. But yeah, great moment for Sami to watch that. And it was exciting. Like that night in Montreal was something special.
That is always something I loved about Canada. If you're Canadian, they will embrace you any part of Canada. Like if you're from Detroit, they're not going to like you in Chicago. You got
statues going up. You got it's happening, man. You got like sandwiches named after you. It's a good thing to be Canadian.
That's great. And so, of course, the legacy of Trish and Lita, the impact that it has on women wrestling is very important. And as you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of strides women have made to this day when it comes to pay-per-views and Royal Rumbles and whatnot. You retired at a very early age, very young, and while you were on top. And I know that your mother's health had something to do with that. But if wrestling was more like it was today, where there was a deeper women's division, would that at all have impacted your decision to retire?
I think so. I think I really, like I said, I have always said I felt very fulfilled at that stage of my career. Like my mother's health did have the part of the decision, but I had to also go like, let's look at what I've done so far, right? Like I had the most amount of championships won at the time. I'd worked all the women that were available, that were working women in our company. I'd had robust storylines, which with each of them almost, I felt like just about every woman I had a robust storyline with. Draz, Molly, Victoria, Lita, like it's like you name it. Mickey, right? We had our day, and I just felt good. I felt really good at that point. But now, yeah, there's like, you could just keep going on and on. Like I haven't worked her. There's her, and then there's the tag titles. There's that championship. There's that championship. You know what I mean? Like it's the world is your oyster if you're a woman in wrestling today.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much. And I have one more question before we leave, and this has been an honor and pleasure. The streets tell me that Vince McMahon was backstage at Raw this past Monday. I know you're on the show. So did you see him backstage, and does he have a mustache?
Okay, so I'm reading the same things you're reading. I did not see him. He was, so I hear, he was back there. And so I've heard, I did not see. I hear there was a mustache. I don't know. I mean, can you find out? Let me know, because I'll look into it. Well, let's further look into this.
Okay, yes, I'll do my investigative journalism. I'll find out. I've seen pretend pictures and they look good, but I don't know what the real thing looks like. So I have to track that down.
Yeah, please, if you track it down, do let me know. Send it to me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Trish. It's been an honor. It's been great. Congratulations on a great career, and good luck at WrestleMania. I'll be there cheering you on.
Amazing. Thank you. I appreciate that very much.